All right, everybody, this is Mike Kilgore coming to you live tonight here at the 6th of September. Can you believe it? This year is kind of wrapping up a little bit for some areas, but opening up in others. But here in my lovely studio upstairs in my house in Tampa, Florida, actually, I'm in Oldsmar is where I live. And tonight we've got Brad Beard with us, and I'd like to take a minute to introduce him in with us. Brad is our new sales manager that lives right outside of Charlotte in Concord. Brad, you want to say hello and say hi to everybody?
Hey, welcome everybody. Like Mike said, I'm new to the team, excited to be here. Based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'll be working in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, a little bit of Virginia, and part of Tennessee. So welcome aboard and look forward to answering any questions that we can as we go along.
And Brad is going to be working on the chat tonight. Martin has a training tomorrow in Rochester, so he drove up there and has a kind of a staging meeting tonight. So it's going to be dinner and a couple of contractors that he's meeting with tonight. So we've got Brad that's going to be fielding some questions right here. And Brad, like he said, covers that North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, a little bit of Eastern Tennessee and Northern Georgia. So there's he's got quite a bit of territory that's there, but Brad has been with us for a little bit of time now. And really, with the training that we did in Charlotte, really showed he has a lot of knowledge of this. And so you're going to be surprised how well he can help you and move you along from being someone that may have never even thought about sealing or adding sealer to their services. And that's what we're here for. I want to start off by just kind of making a small little proclamation. A lot of people confuse us for salespeople. Salespeople are ones that a lot of people have a connotation of thinking, well, they're just trying to sell me something. Here at Trident, we've taken on a new approach. We're not salespeople, we're educators. I truly believe that we are teachers, educators with the best support. And I know that sounds very cliche and that sounds very exciting, but if we come from everything from a position of educating, training, and support, we know that you're going to want to buy our products. That's just part of it. We have a full line of cleaners, sand, sealers, everything's made to work together. But our main objective of this whole group and this whole event and what we're doing this evening is to accomplish two things. And those two things is when you get done with this event or this meeting that we're having right now, I want you to think inside of your mind, holy cow, I had absolutely no idea there was this much involved with sealing. Had no idea of the cleaning process. There are so many details that I had no idea with. I've been to other trainings. I've tried to do some research myself, but this is above and beyond the education and the training that I need. That's number one. But number two is we're not successful as educators and trainers unless number two is accomplished. When you get done getting all that information, you get done seeing all the details that we put into there and give you all the information that you need, we want you to say to yourself, but I can do that. There's no doubt about it that you can do it. If someone like me from Southeast Missouri can move down to Florida and seal thousands and thousands of pavers out there, there's no doubt about it that you're going to be able to do the same thing too. So if I can seal pavers, you can seal pavers. There's no doubt about it. Now, it's not just about pavers. Let's realize that there's pavers, there's concrete, there's stamped concrete, there's retaining walls. We're going to go into that into the presentation itself. So I'm going to kind of get going. If you have any questions along the way, if you need anything along the way, type it into the check box. That chat box is there so that you can ask some questions. If Brad needs some help from me too and say, hey, there's a really good question that you need to answer, he's going to say, hey, Mike, I got a question for you. I've left his microphone on so that he can jump in here and ask those questions too. So let me see what we've got. We got 21 people on here right now. So that's good. It's a good little turnout. Let's see who we got in here. See if there's anybody in here. Okay, good. I see some great people in here. So let's go into our presentation. I'm going to put this right here. And then I'm going to go to from the beginning. There we go. I'm going to move myself down to this little corner over here. Whoa, whoa. Sorry, I had to have a little bit of fun with it. All right, here we go. So let's talk about intro to sealing with Trident. We're just going to kind of dive right into it. How do you separate yourself from the rest? Do you really want to be certified in one day? Of course we do. We'd love to be able to show up to a training, be certified in one day. But you and I both know that, do you get a degree by attending the first semester as far as going to college? Do you get your high school diploma by going to your freshman year? So do you really want to be certified in one day? Because I can tell you, there's multiple people that I have seen that have gone to trainings. And when they got done with those trainings, they got a certificate saying that they were a certified contractor, and they showed up to their first job. And the first thing they looked at is, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm looking at. And I can remember my very first job. I remember the very first I went to, talking about not sleeping for 2 nights because I just knew enough to not even be dangerous. I knew enough to destroy. I knew enough to hurt someone's property. So a lot of what I was afraid of was, first of all, am I going to be able to reach out to somebody in my time of need? And am I going to be able to overcome any of the objectives that I come on that I can't solve? So certification requires dedication, commitment, and sacrifice. The inner circle. We just recently renamed the inner circle. The inner circle is a group of guys and girls. I'll try to put my phone on mute here. I'm going to hear some beeping going on the whole time. It's a group of guys and girls that are master certified. We just recently changed that group to Trident Protects Master Certified Contractors. It's not one that you can just go and find them. You have to be invited into it once you become a master certified contractor. So what they do is, inside of our group, if you're not part of Trident Protects Contractors Only, inside that group, they're there to answer any questions that you have along the way. You can typically tell who is a master certified contractor by the fact that next to their name, it says group expert. Now, there are a few people that are master certified contractors that are inside of that group that do not say group expert. A lot of that has to do with that because they were put in Facebook jail. For some reason, Facebook decides that they're going to not allow me to determine a group expert because they made some kind of political move that Facebook didn't like. I don't know how to change it, but there are a few people that are that way. We spend about 75% of our time with the master certified contractors. Now, that doesn't mean that we do not spend we only spend 25% of our time with the younger or with the new people. We actually have a new position that's starting, which is the onboarding coordinator. And that onboarding coordinator is fulfilled by Danielle. Some of you have had a chance to talk to her and meet her a couple of times, but Danielle has moved into that role there where her job is to take you as a new contractor and walk you through the steps of certification all the way through your first purchase. once you have your first purchase at that point. Now, Danielle is not the only person working with you. You are also working with your sales manager that is in your area. And so, for instance, if you're in Florida, you'd be working with me. If you're in North Carolina, you're going to be working with Brad and in his territory, in his states. If you're in New York, you're working with Martin. If you're working in say Texas, you're going to be working with Lonnie. But the onboarding coordinator position is a person that is focused on walking you through the training and education from the beginning to the end to help you become master certified. No, I think my dog just came in here. You're gonna probably hear some panting. Go away. Right. I know. I love her. I've got a yellow lab that's here. You hear maybe here in the background here. So our commitment to success is 100% rock solid. So we kind of took this as a fun thing because everyone's talking about solids and they're different solids. We kind of made a little fun of it and had some jokes with it, but there is a lot of information and a lot of reasons why we choose to be 100% rock solid and committed to your success. It has 4 different elements that create that top-notch information that we give to you there, support and education. So first of all is top-notch support. So anytime you have an issue or anything that pops up, let us know. Seal Pro LLC. How many times did we talk over the weekend going through his first job that he was doing there? 4,200 square feet, doing this over a couple of days. Phone calls on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that this is the type of commitment to being able to make sure that our contractors in their time of need are going to get the support that they need when they need it. Also, we have exclusive contractor programs. So Trident exclusive marketing, sample products, Facebook, inner circle programs to help contractors sell more jobs, provide support, and offer opportunities for networking. Amazing products. Of course, our products we truly believe are amazing. And a lot of that comes from is that these products are not just brand new. Even though we've had Trident for about over 2 years, it's been developed for about 3 years. This all comes from our parent company, which is SEK Sherbon, which has been around for 30 years. 30 years been inside of this business, working on sanding, sealing, cleaning, all the best practices. So Trident is not brand new, maybe a new name, but it is the sister company of SEK Sherbon. And of course, unbeatable training. I truly believe that our training is far and beyond anything else that is out there. And I'll say that all day, every day. And I'm not saying that the other trainings are bad. I'm not saying that at all. I think that you should go and look at other trainings to get other pieces of information that are out there. But I believe the time and the effort and the experience that we've put into this is going to be well worth it. So let's get started. So what is the road to success? You have the introduction to sealing class. That's what we're doing today, right? Then we have a Trident Live. That's when you're doing a live training. That's when you are going to an event like, for instance, in Tampa. We've got one in Virginia that's happening tomorrow. We've got Houston that's coming up, Atlanta. We've got a long list, and I'm going to show you where to go be able to see all those things. A Trident Live, that's where we're going and doing a live demonstration. And then what we do is there is a point where we do the introduction to sealing class and Trident Live. Those are called the intensive classes. And that's what we're primarily doing in Florida. And that's what we did in Charlotte last month, where we're going to clean, sand, seal, do this presentation with a lot more details involved with it, and then seal the pavers after we get done all in one day. After you get done with that, we want you to attend one of our advanced trainings. The advanced trainings happens 2 times a year. The next one's going to be happening in February. It is a 2-day class. We have speakers from all around the world that are specifically teaching of how to run your business. This is not about how to do things that are outside of the sealing world, but these presentations have been developed so that they are specific for the sealing world and how to grow your sealing business. We have some really great coaches from, like I said, all around the world. Then we want you to gain some real life experience, complete 5 jobs. Go out there and do 4 or 5 jobs with the help of your onboarding coordinator, as well as your sales manager itself. That's how we help walk you through and learn from each of those experiences along the way. We want to help mitigate problems before they happen, but yet we also want you to get out and get some experience. And then we want you to commit to using Trident products. We want you to say, yes, we are going to use Trident products. We're going to use the sand, the sealer, the cleaners. More importantly, that's how you're going to become a Trident master technician. Okay. Let me check into my chats here. Everybody doing good? What is the cost? Let's see here. And that is all of our trainings are free, but the training that we have in the master or the advanced training, we don't have a price for that yet, but you're more than likely going to have to buy a kit of probably Cat 5, and that's going to be your admission into the advanced training. So we don't want your money. We want your commitment. That's what's important. The advanced training, we're starting to do a lot of the, then I'm going to move on here, but the advanced training currently is in Tampa, but we're going to offer it in multiple different ways. We're going to be looking at doing it in Tampa, also in Charlotte, also in New York, and in potentially Houston, all on the same days and the same times. And then it's also going to have an online attribute to where if you're not able to make it to one of those locations, you can actually view it all online. So it's going to be a really cool event for anybody to attend. All right. All right. So the steps of certification, if you haven't joined into the Trident Protects Contractors Only, pull out your phone, scan that little QR code. Right now, it says there's 2,900 members. I believe the last time I checked right now, there's over 3,100 members. We add anywhere between 100 and say 100, maybe 50 to 100 contractors. But we're not just looking for bodies and seats. We're looking for people that are interested in learning how to do sealing. I don't care if this thing gets up to 15,000, 25,000, 30,000. That doesn't measure success for me. What measures success to me is not the volume of contractors that are there. It's the quality of the contractors, and they're there to learn the process and do a great thing. How can we raise the bar by the right contractors? So we actually do a lot of not approving contractors along the way. So this is register for an account. Now, this is how you start your onboarding process. The onboarding process is completely tied to this step right here. You scan this, you go to this page and register for an account on the website. This is not, we're not taking blood samples, we're not checking IQs, we're not doing any all that stuff. But once you register for that account onto this page that's here, it's going to allow you to then see prices, SDS, TDS, videos, marketing material, all kinds of information on there, right? So I don't know if you guys are hearing my dog in the background or not, but she's barking at somebody going across. So make sure that you pull out your phone, scan that, register for an account. Now you'll see there that it takes 24 hours for the account to be approved. And that's because Danielle goes through each and every single one of those. And then we then approve those. And then you'll get an email saying that you can come and log back in. So make sure, and that's what trips off the onboarding manager to walk you through this process. All right. Attend a Trident live on-site training program, as well as a intensive training that combines everything together. This link right here will take you, that's the T3 University. We're going to go over that at the end. And that's going to give you a list of all the trainings that are available. Like I said, the trainings are free for you to attend. You just need to go in and register for one of those events. A lot of them are in-person events. So after attending this course and staying till the end, right, we're keeping track. There's 22 people here, and I can see who stays and who drops off, right? For those people, we're going to give you the QR code to review of this class with certificate. Now, this is going to be annotated inside of your record that's here at Trident to say that you've done the Intro to Paver Sealing class. So when you get the QR code, there's one at the very end. You can pull out your phone. You can go to the link that's there and just fill out that form. When you fill out that, there's, I think, like 3 questions, like how good did we do? What could we have done better? Who was your instructor? And, you know, what are the numbers for the next lotto that's coming up so I can win a lot of money, right? I'm also going to send you a link to our last advanced training class. And in that are 5 speakers. Some of them are, it's about 45 minutes long for each one of those classes that are there, but it's broken down into each class, and you can go in and you can learn some really cool information from each of those trainings that was there. We had Brandon Vaughn come in with the Conquer group and do a really cool class. My father actually did a class. We had Agnes Stybie from Paris that did a really interesting class on burnout. So you really want to see that. Plus, I'm going to send you a link, interviews with master certified contractors with these interviews that we did. So I'll send all 3 of those links after this course is done. All right. So we ready to get started? Got any questions? Let me pop open that chat here. So no, the intensive training is not the same as the advanced. The intensive training is very similar to kind of what we're doing now, but the advanced training has absolutely nothing with paver, sealing, cleaning, sanding. It all has to do with how to run your business, how to prepare quotes, how to close more deals, how to get more leads, how to run a better, more efficient business. Those are the types of things that we're going to be spending a majority of our time on. And then we're also going to do some demonstrations along the way of some cleaning, sanding, and sealing, because we got to show you a little bit of something that's there. But most of it is a in-person training, but you can also join in online. All right. So how big is the opportunity? With so many surfaces, horizontal and vertical, concrete is the second most consumed substance in the world behind what? Water. About 10 billion tons of concrete are produced in the U.S. every year. Sidewalks, driveways, curbs, steps, patios can all be cleaned and sealed. Segmental, estimated over 12.5 billion square feet of concrete pavers installed since 1998. Plus stone, slabs, porcelain can all be cleaned and sealed. Landscape features, how many outdoor kitchens, barbecue pits, pits, fireplaces, retaining walls, benches, pool decks. Like how many pool decks? Let me see if I can move my guy up here. I think I'm going to put me over here. There. There. So I'm out of the way. How many pools are in the U.S. in your area? All can be cleaned and sealed. So how big is the opportunity? This is a really cool thing. It looks nice and clean now, but it's going to look really horrible here in a minute with all kinds of numbers and stuff all over the place, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we got to diagnose the issue and the outcome. Then we've got to go into cleaning. Now, in cleaning, on average, I get it. There's going to be that rock star out there that's going to be able to clean and seal or clean driveways for 55 cents a square foot. Good for you. But on average in Florida, and I'm sure a majority of you guys will agree with this, that the average rate for cleaning hardscapes, whether it be concrete, pavers, or something like that, this is not cleaning and sanding and sealing, this is just cleaning it, is averaging between 10 cents and 15 cents per square foot outside of Florida. So Georgia and the rest of the country out there, not on this island called Florida down here, you're looking anywhere between, say, 15 cents and 25 cents per square foot. That's how much you're going to charge just to clean. That's driveways, that's long driveways. And I get it. Some people say, no, I charge 35 cents a square foot. I get that. There are some rock stars that are out there. And there's some people saying, I couldn't get 15 cents if I tried. I'm going to get 10 cents. But on average, across the country there, we're looking at 15 cents to 25 cents per square foot. Now, after that, you've got repairs that you can do that are optional, whether or not it's sunken pavers or you have a edge. You need to put some edge restraint on the outside around the soldier row. We'll talk about that here in a second. Joint sand and segmental systems, and then the ceiling. So the total price typically in Florida is anywhere, and now this is for professional services. This is not, hey, I got some sealer out here, I'm going to go give it a shot. I picked up something over there at Home Depot, went over to Ace, got some stuff. This is professional cleaning, sand, and sealing. The average is going to be anywhere from $1.25 to $2 a square foot, depending on where you're located. It's kind of interesting, though, because the prices start in the highest area, and we'll pick on Florida for right now, is that when you're up in the left-hand corner, up around that Pensacola area, it's anywhere from $2. Sometimes I see $2.50 a square foot that's there. As you go over into Jacksonville, you're looking around that $1.50, $1.65 range. For the high end. As you start to move south, more towards that Naples and more towards that Miami area, the price starts to go down a little bit. And again, I am focusing on primarily the professional clean sand and seal. So it's 10 times the revenue that's coming in. Now, granted, when we start looking at pressure washing, there is a dramatic difference in the cost of the chemicals for what we use to what we clean compared to sealing, because you got to buy a sealer, you got to buy a cleaner, you got to buy sand. Where with cleaning, we're talking about some SH, some surfactant, and off we go. That's just basic cleaning. I get it that we can also go into rust and irrigation changing. And for a lot of people that don't know this, I actually owned and operated a paver cleaning, sanding, and sealing company for 5 years. At one point, we were cleaning, sanding, and sealing about 25 to 30,000 square feet per week of pavers a week. Now, that was in our heyday that we were doing there, but I also owned a pressure washing company prior to that, which was called Ninja Power Soft Wash, which it did soft wash, roof wash, house wash, driveway, clean your cat, clean your dog, anything that we could do to make a living that was there. So I do have a lot of history with pressure washing. My very first rig was an 8 gallon per minute. I was downstreaming, then moved over to the proportioner with a 12 volt with a booster pump was the original. And that's before you had all the different gadgets that went on to the booster pump. But then moved into 12 volts and gas machines and all kinds of stuff. So I can also answer questions about pressure washing too, but this is primarily focused on sealing. So if we break this down and we have the cleaning and we use non-Florida pricings, 15 to 25 cents for the cleaning. The repairs is typically materials and labor. Joint sand, this is typically what we're charging per square foot to add joint sand into the joints, 45 cents to 80 cents a square foot for non-Florida, 20 cents to 25 cents for Florida. Then you've got the ceiling. So in Florida, it's $1 to $1.50. From non-Florida, $1.50 to $2.75. When you add all three of those things together, that's what gives you the $1.25 to $2 a square foot, or the $1.85 to $3.50. So I told you it was going to be a mess when we got done with it, but here we are. So what is surface restoration? Let me check into here and see how we're doing. Looks like we're doing pretty good. Let me go back into my, there we go. All right. The revitalization of surfaces through minor repairs, surface cleaning, joint stabilization, segmental systems, and substrate sealing. to meet your customers' needs and expectations. That's important to make sure that you meet your customers' needs and expectations. So don't leave money on the table here. These are the types of things that can be sealed: clay pavers, natural stone, concrete pavers, concrete flat work, exposed aggregate, concrete, vertical concrete, retaining walls, stucco, pool decks, landscape features, roofs. As you can see, there's a lot of opportunity that's out there. So the goal is before and after. And as you can see, some of these are some of the guys that are using the Trident products, which is Eyewash Jax right outside of Jacksonville. You can see here, we've got the S&J exterior maintenance, so before and after pictures. So the work sequence, you have project inspection, the field test, an estimate, and then minor repairs, cleaning, sanding, sealing, and inspection, right? So what we're going to focus on is the cleaning, sanding, and sealing. That's what we're focusing on today. The project inspection, field test and estimate, minor repairs, inspection and money, sales, how to generate leads. That's what we cover inside of our advanced training. That's how we're getting you to become more of a better business and closing more deals. So what do I need to know before I give a bid? You need to know the scope of work, the customer's expectations and values, surface porosity, coats and coverage rate, desired outcome. That's going to be really important. We're going to talk about the sealer triangle, sealer selection guide. Take photos before, during, and after. Not just to CYA, not just because of that. We want you to take those photos because that's what you're going to also use for your marketing. Application technique, product availability, and of course, scheduling.
Hey,
so
Mike,
cleaning.
quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
They have a question if people are charging more for around pool areas and around lanais, or is anybody in Florida getting more money for that because of what it is?
I would say that on average, most people are charging one rate, but I do know that there are a few customers that say that if it's a driveway and it's wide open and there's no cages or anything else like that, they're charging one price. And I do know of two companies now that I think of at the top of my head that are charging a little bit more for pool decks because you have to hand paint the coating or there's techniques for doing that. Also making sure that you're not getting sealer onto the screens. There's a whole lot more moving parts when you're dealing with a pool deck that's there than it is when you're just doing an open driveway. So there are some people that are charging two different prices, one for the driveway and one for the ceiling. But I believe that a majority of them are kind of blending those rates. So if it's $1.25 and $1.50, they're just kind of coming together, know how many square feet that are on the back, what's in the front, and blending those together and saying, it's $1.45 a square foot for everything. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. Cleaning and score a 10 every time on your project. So we're going into the cleaning part. The purpose of a cleaner is to remove the offending stain or foreign substance from a hardscape surface without damage to the surface. That's one of the key facts. I mean, I can go in and take a 10-gallon-a-minute machine, a turbo tip, and typically go in and just blast the heck out of everything, but we don't want to damage the surface. So it's important to know what kind of surfaces that you're working with and understanding what are the limitations of those surfaces. That's why we say test, 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 instead of going straight into it, right? And getting kind of knee deep into it, right? So some terminology that we want to talk about. Dwell time, amount of time needed for cleaner to work on a stain. Dilution, concentrated value product. Concentrated value product needs to be mixed with water. For instance, 4:1 means 4 parts water, 1 part active ingredient. A lot of people get some of that stuff mixed up here where they go to 4:1 or they go to 3:1 or 1:3 or something like that. The actual terminology is 4:1. So if you have 1 gallon of product and it's a 4:1, you're going to have 1 gallon of product, 4 gallons of water, and it's going to give you 5 gallons of diluted material. So when we talk about that here in a minute, I'm going to explain it to you again so that the dilution ratios are correct. Pre-test or field test, a must-do field test for estimating determines correct tools to use, dilution, dwell, and agitation. I can tell you a lot of that has to do with irrigation stains, because sometimes I go, oh yeah, I can just pop that right off there, but they don't realize how deep and how strong that's in there. Plus, if you're doing any type of stripping, you want to know, do you have 1 layer, 2 layer? How difficult is that going to be able to come off? So you can put a little bit of stripper down and then determine how well it's going to pull off of that surface, so that you are making that decision now. Because the worst thing you can do is have to go back to that customer and say, look, I'm sorry I didn't charge enough, and this is a lot more than what I expected. If you can set those expectations at the beginning, then and find out by doing a field test, then you know exactly what you're stepping yourself into, so that you don't lose money down the road. Always test the product on the substrate first. Setting the customer's expectations and what they think. This is the listening time. It's very simple. Typically, when I walk into a customer's home, which I don't walk into very often, but my strategy was very simple. I would walk in, I would say hello, I would say hi, glad we're here, show me where the pavers are. We'd walk in the back and say, wow, you got a lot of pavers. Why am I here? What can I, what are you looking, what can we help with? And just leave it wide open to them. Majority of the time, they're going to say, well, look how faded the pavers are. I got weeds everywhere. I've got this, I've got that. These pavers are moving. They are just waiting to vent. Let them vent first. Then you start to build your sales tactic around that. Educate your customer. Give realistic expectations. Careful not to oversell. It's very easy to do. Man, I can make these pavers look like they are brand new, like you just bought them off the showroom today, right? They're going to look brand new. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. I'm going to give you a saying that you can use. And a lot of guys that I know use this in their marketing material. This is very important. We will make your pavers the best your pavers can be. Now that sounds really cliche, sounds very simple, but if I slow it down and put a different emphasis on a different syllable, then it's going to sound a little bit different. For instance, we will make your pavers the best your pavers can be. Not Sally's pavers, not Greg's pavers, not the ones up on my website that I took a picture of and photoshopped. Not these pictures, not those, not your brother's pavers, but your pavers. I'm going to make your pavers the best your pavers can be. That is a sentence that I worked on, and it sounds so simple and so easy and can roll right off my tongue very easily. But it's something that I used every single time. Is I made sure I set expectations at the beginning, so they didn't come back and go, well, I thought they were going to be a whole lot darker. Well, if I put water onto it to show how dark it's going to get, that's as dark as your pavers are going to get. Okay. So explain your process for cleaning and sealing. You sell the process, not the outcome. Always test the product on the substrate first. So cleaning. Let's start off with our stripper. How are we doing, Brad? We got any questions so far?
No, we're hanging in there.
Good. All right. So we have Tidal Wave. Tidal Wave is a broad spectrum sealer stripper. Quickly removes variety of sealers. I talked about this a little bit with a few people that joined on a little bit earlier because they were asking questions about stripping. Stripping is a whole nother animal. Stripping ain't easy. Sorry, had to say it. But anyway, stripping is a whole nother level. We're not going to talk about how to strip, but what we can go into is Tidal Wave. Tidal Wave is a really good product. We do have some samples of the product that you can utilize, put inside of a bag and take it with you so that you can determine whether or not you have failed sealer and how easy it's going to be able to take off. So it quickly removes variety of sealers. whether it be water-based or solvent-based. See a lot of discussion on the boards that are talking about whether or not, do you know if it's a water-based or a solvent-based? I don't care with Tidal Wave. I'm going to take either one of them off, right? The difference in the way in which they interact is that the water bases are going to turn white and they're going to lift. So you're going to get that kind of flaky white lifting action. If it's a solvent base, it's going to actually turn it into like a goo and a gel. So you're going to look at it and you're going to give me a call and you're going to say, this stuff does not work. Yes, it does work. You just need to give it time, scrape it with a stick. After you get done scraping it, then you can see that it's coming off, pressure wash it off, and you'll see that it's taken that off. I am going to set reasonable expectations with this. Do not believe that any stripper out there is a one and done stripper. You can do it one time and it's all off. There are times in certain areas that sealer was sprayed heavier in certain areas. It's got covered areas. There's, they put 5 or 6 layers of sealer. I got one right now that's up in Gainesville, and every single year they have the contractor put down another quick coat of sealer over the driveway. At some point, there's going to be about 10 layers of sealer. They're eventually going to probably have to take that off. So it's biodegradable. It's available in 5-gallon containers.
Mike, what is Tidal Wave's effect on a pool?
There are a chance that you can actually turn a pool green by getting too much of it into a pool. And what it does is it excites the phosphates inside of there. So we do have a plan that allows you to be able to clean up the pool itself. Sometimes that happens. I can tell you that, like, for instance, Mickey Brenner, Mike Arnone, they've had 1 or 2 of them just because the drainage was so bad and it was, not draining away from the pool. It was draining into the pool. Basically what we're doing is we're treating it for phosphates, and then we actually have a sheet that we can send to you to help you clean up that pool that's there. We obviously cannot tell you that we can keep pools from turning green because we can't dictate how much you're putting into the pools. But if you put too much stripper into a pool, it could potentially turn it green. Here's the problem. There is no specific. We can't tell you that it's saltwater pools. We can't tell you that it is chlorine pools. We can't tell you that, it's lakes and ponds. What we can tell you is that it does happen every once in a while. So you have to be prepared and let the customer know. What you do not want them to do is to go to their pool guy if it does turn green and have them shock it, because when they shock it, they negate any of the cleaning processes that we can do to actually resolve it. That's the first thing that pool guys are just about as bad as pressure washers. Oh, I can get that out with SH. Pool guys say I can get that out by shocking it. The first thing they do is they shock it. You don't want them to shock it. What you want to do is put in a phosphate cleaner that's into it. And then we also have Magic Blue and Magic Purple that you can get from any of the Leslie's or pool stores. Put a little bit of that inside of it and then scrub down the edge, because the phosphates are going to want to connect to the side. A pool company is going to want to come in and say, we got to drain your pool and we've got to put acid inside and we got to acid wash it. That's just not true, but it can turn pools green. So can any of the other natural base sealers that are out on the market. So it's not just Tidal Wave. Okay. Safe Harbor oil stain cleaner. Now, this is a extractor. It removes petroleum-based oil stains, removes food-based oil stains, quick acting, works in minutes, smells horrible. We didn't write that on here. That's kind of my own inflection into it. Clean rinse technology. Basically, this is a phenomenal oil remover. It's more of an extractor. It's going to pull that oil and stuff up and out of that base and allow you to be able to remove it. Really good on pavers. Love using this stuff. Also works good with like dumpster pads and those kinds of areas. But I'm also showing you another product does too. Whitewater. Whitewater is our efflorescence remover. Now, let me go back. Safe Harbor is non-dilutable. So in other words, it's ready to use formula. So it's an RTU formula, ready to use formula. So you do not mix that. White water is an efflorescence mineral and salt cleaner, effectively removes efflorescence, concentrated formula, environmentally friendly. And basically, when we talked about dilution ratios, our starting dilution ratio is that we're going to take 5 gallons of white water and we're going to dilute it 1-to-1. That means that we're going to make 10 gallons out of white water. So if you wanted to make just 2 gallons, you would add a gallon of white water, a gallon of water, then downstream it through your system. Okay. That's how you're going to apply it. Now, if you have really, really tough efflorescence, we're not going to go super deep into efflorescence, but if you do have some tough efflorescence, you can actually downstream straight out of the pail itself, which is basically going to give you roughly around that 4, 5, 6-to-1 ratio instead of getting all the way up into like that 15-to-16 ratio after going 1-to-1 and then downstreaming. Okay. We are starting to develop and starting to talk about the 1, 2, 3 cleaning process. And that process is that we're going to clean with white water first if you have efflorescence. 2, we're going to use point break. Point break is what we use to get rid of any organic material, spot cleaner for greasy non-food stains, organic material. It's going to help get rid of any type of rust, irrigation stains, some of that Georgia clay that's out there, going to help get that off of there, as well as at a higher concentration, it can help clean dumpster pads very, very well. This is a phenomenal product. We actually cleaned some of the chicken salad chicks with this product. So point break is your second. The dilution ratio for this is 1-to-1, then downstream. I'm going to go through the 1, 2, 3 cleaning process. The final stage is wipeout, deep penetrating multi-use cleaner. This is what removes the deep embedded soil, but it also neutralizes and prepares the surface for sealing. This actually goes a very, very long way. Wipeout is a 3-to-1 mix ratio. So basically, you're going to make 20 gallons out of 5 gallons of wipeout. You're going to use roughly around a gallon per 1,000 square feet. In essence, 1 5-gallon of wipeout is going to help you neutralize, clean, remove embedded soil for 20,000 square feet per 5 gallons. That's basically how that works. So it goes pretty far. This is our final stage. So no matter what you do, let's say, for instance, you like using F9. F9 is a great product. Let's say, for instance, you like using something along with Carlos Gonzalez there, with EBC. Whatever you choose to do, we went this in order there. Make sure that your last stage is wipeout. Now, I am not a huge fan of using bleach, SH, on pavers and hardscape. Why? Because 90% of bleach is salt water that has been electrocuted in a brine. We're trying to get rid of salts. We're trying to get rid of efflorescence, and we're pumping salts into those pavers that are there. Other part of it too is that 10.5% or 12%, depending if you're lucky in the world today, to be able to get some good old 12% SH, or you have 10.5% is sodium hypochlorite. And sodium hypochlorite is a bleaching agent. If you ever clean some of the pavers and all of a sudden realize that you were getting some red slurry from those red pavers that are coming down, that's the color that's coming out of those pavers. And a lot of that is because it's just too damn hot to be able to clean that. Or when I talk about hot, we're not talking temperature hot, we're talking chemical hot that's there. So it's taking the colors out. We're trying to restore the colors. We don't want to take it out to add more in. So that's why instead of using any bleach, we prefer to use point break. Now you think to yourself, wow, that's going to be really, really expensive. No, it's not. It's actually cheaper than bleach. Now, is there a place for bleach? Because the question always comes up. Can I clean a roof with this? Can I clean a pool cage with that? Can I clean the house with that? No, it needs agitation because it's going to lift and remove, right? We put it on a roof. it works, but not very well. There is a place for bleach, right? There is a place for sodium hypochlorite. It's just not on pavers on hardscape. So wipe out the last stage that's there, right? So what is our cleaning process that we're going to do? So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to do a turbo tip. So as you can see here, I'm going to put this on mute. There we go. I've got it in slow motion right now. This turbo tip is not the Aqua Rocket, but it's called the Rip Saw. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can actually order it on Amazon. This is by far my favorite turbo nozzle that you can get. The advantage with it is the fact that it's got a tungsten carbide tip inside of it, so it doesn't have a ceramic tip inside of it. Ceramic tips are very notorious for breaking, especially if you don't start that directly straight down. With a tungsten carbide tip, because this is more of an excavation tip that's there, it's not going to break. You can start it up, down, left, right, or left, right. There we go. Left, right, and it's not going to make any difference. Plus, they slow down the rotation a little bit, so it has a chance to dig deep in between those pavers. You can see over here, this is another, I think this is a Suttner over here that's digging down. But the first thing we want to do is we want to dig out those joints. I prefer to dig out those joints first, just simply because I want to be able to get rid of any of the organics or any of the weeds that may be inside of those joints. So if I use a surface cleaner over the top of it, there's a possibility that I'm going to knock off all the leaves, and I have no idea where to really focus my effort to dig out those weeds. If you do have a pavers and tons of pavers that are there, and you're looking and you've got a bunch of weeds and it just looks like a big chef salad over the top of it, I suggest that you get some Roundup and some weed killer and flood that whole area 2 weeks prior to coming in and doing any cleaning. You need to do it 2 weeks out, and you need to do it 1 week out. The objective is to show up and everything is completely white. All the weeds are completely white. Then you can do the turbo tipping all you want. If you've got really, really tight joints and you can't put a lot of sand inside of those joints, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to block those weeds. So we got to kill them, and then we got to dig them out, and then we put sand into the joints. All right. How are we doing here? We're on session 2. Where are we at with time? Okay. These next 2 stages, the next stage is the longest one. It's got most of the detail, and that's about sand, right?
Hey, Mike, they asked you turbo tip every time.
I turbo tip every single time. The objective is to make sure that you dig out the joints at least 3/4 of an inch deep. Right. That's what you've got to do, at least 3/4 of an inch. So yes, I turbo tip every single time. Now, we do have some guys out there that are running 31 gallons a minute. Well, Mike Arnone is 31 gallons a minute, and he's able to surface clean and turbo tip at the same time. But that's not all of us. That's why I always turbo tip, and I turbo tip first to make sure that I dig out those joints and try to get them as deep, because I want to replace it with the correct joint sand. Okay. All right. Joint sanding. It's just sand, or is it? Right? So let's talk about sand. What is the importance of joint sand, right? So loads are transferred from one unit to another through joint sand. So if you do not have joint sand into those pavers and you drive over the top of it and you do not have sand in between the joints, you're going to have all that pressure of that truck on the pavers that the tires are sitting on. If you have joint sand into it, you can take that tire and you can lay it over to the right. You can lay it to the left. You can lay it forward and lay it back. So you're going to get a big dome that's about this big. And that's where the load is being transferred to. So when we talk about load dispersion, that means that the load of that weight is being now dispersed across all the different pavers instead of just a few of them. It keeps the pavers apart so they don't chip or break edges, keeps dirt and debris from collecting on open joints. It's got a positive aesthetic appearance when using the correct sand, keeps water out of the system, and it's an integral component of interlocking pavement system. That is a long sentence. That means it's the right stuff to do inside of the joint system itself, and it affects long-term system performance. And as you can see on the far right-hand side here, the top right-hand side, you have a typical segmental paver installation. Number one, that's your pavers. Number two, that's your bedding sand. Majority of installs that are happening, the bedding sand is not deep enough. It should anywhere be between that 1.5 to 2 inches of bedding sand. Compacted aggregate base. Number 4 is a separation landscape fabric. Number 5 is compacted soils and the subgrade. Number 6 is an edge restraint. Now, this is used a lot more up north. That's there. And then also we have the spikes that hold those into place. You see a lot of more concrete toe that's down in the Florida area where they put the concrete. We actually have a product called Edgecrete, and that Edgecrete is a product that can be put around the outside that has fibers inside of it. Really good for those guys that have lawnmowers that drive over the edge of those pavers, especially along that soldier row that wants to come out. And this is what's called the soldier row on the outside to help protect the pavers on the inside. That's why they call it a soldier roll. Roll, 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 roll. Well, that was a hard one to get out there. So, success beginning with your choices. Sand should be hard and angular shape, should be washed and have as few fines as possible, have no large aggregate, contain no organic material. That's why you start seeing these guys talking so proficient about play sand. Play sand is not kiln dried. It's got a lot of organic material inside of it. Majority of them, if you open them up in the bag, they've already got mold and mildew inside the bag. The colors of the aggregate to complement the surface. Made in America. Don't know why that's extremely important, but all of our sand is made in America. Actually, it's made in Chicago, Illinois, outside in St. Charles of the Chicago, Illinois area. But this is important that it must meet the ASTM C144 standard for joint sand. What is ASTM C144, you asked? Yes, I know that's why you're asking us. It's the way in which it's created is that it has to meet certain sieve analysis. And I'm going to show you this sieve analysis that's right here. I'm not going to go into great detail with it, but what you're finding is that it's got an aggregate that is not rounded. And I'm going to show you when we get to the ceiling, the difference between play sand, pool filter sand, or 2030 grit silica sand, and ASTM 144 sand. This sieve analysis right here is what has to be met to be actually indicated as ASTM C144 grade. All of our sands are C144 grade because it is what is required by the ICPI Institute as the proper sand for joint stabilization. We talk about joint stabilization out there. There's no one that's more versed around joint stabilization than Trident and SEK. This is our specialty, joint stabilization. This is what we excel at. So as you can see, the jointing sand sieve analysis, there's what's called an ASTM C144 low, SEK Sherbon Trident black, SEK C144 grade high. And we fall right in between the middle of the low and the high. So there's two different grades of ASTM, and we're right into the middle that's there. So that's why we have such fantastic sand that everyone keeps talking about. So where is the sand supposed to be, right? So let me go into here and do a little annotation, right? So here's my annotation right here. Majority of people that are starting off in sanding and sealing, they're going to take that sand and go straight across here, right? They're going to run right across the top of those pavers. The problem with that, and fill in the joints from here, the problem is that these pavers right here tend to go up and down with weight transfer that happens on it, right? Well, when they do, it ends up cracking and cracking those areas that are here. So then you get all these broken joints, and then it takes out all the sand inside here, and it just looks horrible, right? So let me go back to this. Where is the sand supposed to be? The sand's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch below this area right here, which is called the chamfer line. See this line right here? I'll give you a little arrow right there. That is your chamfer line. That's right there. And you'll see it on the pavers. Now, on tumbled pavers, typically you don't have a beveled edge. This is where like the bevel would be right here, as you can see on this side. This is a tumbled paver that goes all the way over, and we want it to be 1/8 of an inch below the surface. Now, that doesn't mean that it needs to be 1/8 of an inch all the way from here to there. I had a customer one time that I went in, I sanded everything, went away for lunch, came back from lunch. They had read that the sand's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch below that surface. The problem is that he went around, and I was driving up, and I go, what the heck is that on that driveway? There's colors absolutely everywhere. What's happening? I got there. He had went and taken toothpicks, red toothpicks, blue toothpicks, and green toothpicks. Blue means that they were good. Green means they were good. Blue means they were too high. Red means that it was too low. And there had to have been 1,000 toothpicks out on that driveway. I told him, I said, look, I ain't even blown this thing off yet. I haven't even gotten it all completely situated out yet. But I know one thing that's not going to happen is this guy right here with 2 thumbs right here is not picking up 1,000 of those toothpicks. That's for sure. That's not going to happen. So eventually he kind of became one of those customers that the red flags became too much. I ended up giving him his cleaning. I put the sand in. We decided not to move forward with the sealing because it was never going to stop. So let me clear this out. Everybody good there? All right. So come on. There we go. So we have 2 types of sand. Actually, we have 3 types of sand now. We're not going to really talk about the resin sand because that's getting ready to start to come out this next month. You're going to start seeing more of those on the board where we talk about the resin sand. I'll tell you a little bit more about it just so that you know. But joint sand and stabilizing sealer is the best choice when you clean, sand, and seal, right? And the polymeric sand is a good choice when you clean and sand, right? Because the sealer itself is going to harden the sand inside of the joints. It meets ASTM C144 for joint sand, angular, wash, dried. Sorry, I got a little yawn that came in there. That's what happens when I talk too much. Color of aggregate, we have tan, gray, fieldstone, platinum, black, and pearl, which I'll show you the pictures of it here in a second, made in 50-pound bags. And also we have stabilizing sealers that covered in the JSS sealer section, which we're going to talk about, which is the joint stabilizing sealer. Polymeric sand is a good choice. The interesting thing about polymeric sand is a lot of guys in Florida talk about you should never use polymeric sand in Florida. You're right. You should never use polymeric sand incorrectly in Florida. I'll say it again. You should not use it incorrectly in Florida. Majority of the reasons why people have a problem with polymeric sand is because they do not know how to install it, water it incorrectly, dig out the joints, and have the right size gaps. That's why polymeric sand fails. Our polymeric sand is the same formula that has been the same formula for over 30 years. And our tagline is, it's just damn good sand, plain and simple. One of the main reasons why a lot of people like using polymeric sand is because it actually joint stabilizes with water. When they come back to seal, now their sealer goes twice as far. We have a new sand, which is called resin sand. It's polymeric sand, but it's actually called resin sand. It's not really polymeric sand, but you actually water it into the joints. And when you water it into the joints, when you come back the next day, it will have hardened up enough for you to seal. And now your sealer goes twice as far. This resin sand is the only resin sand that's on the market. There's only 2 other resin sands that are on the market, but the only resin sand that allows you to go all the way down to 1/8 of an inch. as far as a gap. So it's going to be really, really good for those travertines that are really tight, or those really tight pavers that you need to get sand into. You do not have to have a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch or higher like the other resin sands that are out there. Comes in 3 different colors. Comes the resin sand. I don't have a slide for this, so I'm just telling you about it. Comes in tan, comes in sand, tan, gray, and slate, right? So those are the 3 colors that we have there. It's a really, really cool sand. I'm going to be doing some videos about it here sometime soon. All right, so these are the 6 colors: tan, gray, fieldstone, platinum, black, and pearl. You can also contact us and we can send you a sand sampler. It's got all 6 of these sands that are inside of it. And so you can get a sand sampler. We'll send it to you free of charge. Actually, you end up getting one when you go on and register for an account on Trident Protects. That's one of the parts of the onboarding process is that we send you a sand sampler and some flyers. So these are the colors that are there.
Hey, Mike, real quick.
Yep.
We're looking to see if we have any bags of tricks for, do you have a trick to get the sand 1/8 of an inch below the chamfer?
Yeah, you take a straw and you put the sand in your mouth and you blow it in there, and it's great. Or you take your hand or something. A lot of that's going to come down with just experience, right? I use wet sanding technique. We're going to talk about the 2 different techniques that are here. Dry sanding technique. A lot of that has to do with your broom. And of course, the wet sanding technique, being able to push that sand inside of the joints. You're going to find people that are going to come on here and say, I've tried wet sanding and it's horrible. I'm going to give you a piece of advice for wet sanding. Don't start off just doing a pool deck with a bunch of different angles. Try it on a driveway first. Also, make sure that you're keeping the water out in front of you. But what I want to show you here is the dry sanding technique. And I'm going to put this on mute. Look how handsome that guy is from a couple of years ago. He's incredibly good looking. Not really. All right. 3 minutes and 55 seconds. I know I cheated. It's right up here. But this kind of gives you an idea of what the wet sanding, dry sanding, what you don't want to do is do bulldozing where you're pushing it across. A lot of people, everything about your body is going to make you want to do this, right? And then go into it and clean it up. The problem is it creates bridges across the top. What you want to do is you want to get behind the sand, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. And you want to flick it out in front of you so that it's starting to fill up that sand from the bottom. See how it's flicking out in front of me? So it's filling from the bottom to the top and cleaning up. Now, what I want to show you is once we get to here, you're going to see that sand line, see right there, cleaned it up right inside those joints. It's about 1/8 of an inch. That's down below. Now, I'm still going to come back and blow it off. But typically, if you're not blowing straight down and blowing out in front of you, that sand's going to sit about 1/8 of an inch. Again, it's about 1/8 of an inch, not exactly 1/8 of an inch below. Now, when I get done and I come back the next day, because we teach a 2-day cleaning, sanding, and sealing process, then you come back the next day. If there's some sand missing there, I'm going to grab a handful of it, throw it in there, and then blow it off. Okay. We're going to show you a little bit of wet sanding right here. Turn my volume all the way down. This is Rob Harris moving in the platinum sand inside of these joints. So as you can see, we're using the process called hydrocompaction, where we're moving the sand in a direction, in a diagonal across, and it's falling down inside of those joints. And by following down into those joints, first of all, your sand's going to go a whole lot further, but the sand is going to be so much cleaner. And this, we're using a 2-step process where the other person is moving the excess along as the other person is cleaning it up from behind. Here's another video right here. Turn the volume off. So you can see right across travertine, just cleaning that up. and moving that sand right across. And as you can see, he's keeping it out in front of him and moving the sand across here. Most people will tell you that the sand that we use is the best sand that they've ever used. No doubt about it. It has been studied. There's, rumors of other people bringing out other sand in the marketplace. Look, we've dealt with people bringing out sand for years and years. This is by far the best sand for cleaning, sanding, and sealing and joint stabilization. Okay. Now, poly sweep for joints up to 3/4 inch wide. Poly sweep extreme for joints up to 4 inches wide. So we have an extreme joint sand too that can be used for big joints. A lot of people are going to say, wow, those joints look like they're way too high. Remember, these are tumbled pavers that are right here, so they don't have that beveled edge, and they are very, very separated. So it looks like the sand is really, really high, but there's no bevel to it. There's just big gaps inside of there.
Hi, I'm Jay from SEK Shervine. Today we're going to talk about PolySweep polymer.
I'm going to play this video, and this is the last part about the sand here.
We've got a hardscape project that's ready to be completed. All the pavers are in place. We've installed snap edge paver restraints. Our surface is clean and dry. And that means it's time for PolySweep. Your reputation is on the line with every job you build, so don't compromise on your polymeric sand. PolySweep is just damn good sand. Let's talk about what makes PolySweep unique. Regular and extreme wide joint PolySweep are both superior strength, long-lasting polymeric sands made with a blend of ASTM C144 sand and the highest quality, clearest synthetic polymers. PolySweep is manufactured at our state-of-the-art facility, ensuring consistent quality and reliability. Our dedicated logistics team specializes in getting PolySweep into the marketplace as quickly and as inexpensively as possible. Once activated with water and allowed to dry, PolySweep will form a hardened joint that helps to prevent sand loss, inhibit weed growth, and deter insects. PolySweep has superior strength and long-term durability, plus it's RCS safe and guaranteed to be haze-free. Before we get started, this would be a good time to review the ICPI recommendation for best practices for hardscape installation. You will need to use a 3/4 inch modified stone base and sand for your setting bed. You can also use PolySweep with open graded base systems. Remember to install PolySweep when the average ambient air temperature is above 35 degrees for a minimum of 48 hours after installation. The pavement surface should be dry and there should be no rain forecasted for 12 hours after installation. Use PolySweep for pavers for joints up to 3/4 inch and extreme wide joint PolySweep for joints up to 4 inches. When you're ready to apply PolySweep, here's a tip: save your bag. Stage the 50-pound bags evenly around your surface. Then cut open and distribute each bag low to the surface, forming an S pattern as you pour within a small area. When you're ready to sweep, the right broom is key. Look for something with medium stiff bristles. These work best for removing the excess PolySweep from the surface. And a small hand broom works great for tight areas. If at any time in your project you end up with a pile of PolySweep, don't just muscle that down to the end of your surface. That's called bulldozing. When you bulldoze, you'll drop out the light particles first, then the medium weights, and by the time you get down to the end of your surface, you'll have nothing but sand at that point. Rather, pick up a shovel, take a scoop of that PolySweep, and bring it down to the other area, and just repeat that till you've eliminated that pile of sand. That will help ensure a nice uniform application of PolySweep. Make sure you don't overfill the joints. The sand should be no less than 1/8 inch below the surface. After you've swept PolySweep evenly throughout your project, make a pass with a vibratory roller or compactor with a neoprene pad to help consolidation. For tight areas, a hand tamper or rubber hammer will do the trick. You may need to repeat these steps to make sure PolySweep is evenly distributed and the joints are filled to the correct height. This is the point in the process where the details matter. Once your joints are correctly filled, It's time to remove the excess from the surface using a leaf blower. Be sure to use a low idle and direct the blower at an angle to the surface to avoid removing polysweep from the joints. It's important that the excess polysweep is cleared before you mist your surface. Pay extra attention to remove polysweep from the corners, bottom of the stairs, at the garage door, and other places where it can accumulate. Now it's time to water. The watering process is what activates polysweep. Using a hose, gently mist the pavement, allowing water to absorb into the joint. After 5 minutes, repeat the misting process up to 3 or 4 times, gradually increasing the volume of water each time. Be sure to wait about 5 minutes between each misting. For optimal joint performance, the entire sand joint must be fully saturated. Any residual water caught in the texture of the pavement surface should be blown off with a leaf blower. To check to see if you've got the proper amount of moisture in polysweep, you'll need a screwdriver, a putty knife, or even a pocket knife to work well. We're going to pick a joint, and we're just going to dig down in the joint to see how far water has penetrated. In this particular case, I'm down about that far. That's not enough. We want to go all the way to the bottom of our polysweep joint. So what we'll do is just push this back into place and then apply more moisture. Polysweep takes 24 hours to cure, depending on site conditions, temperature, and humidity. Once it's dried and cured, it's time to enjoy your beautiful hardscape. You can also use polysweep on natural stone, porcelain tile, and concrete overlays. To learn more about these applications, polysweep, and all our professional hardscaping products, visit us online at sek.us.com.
All right, we're down to the final stage here. Everybody still with me? I think I can do the rest of this here in about 10 minutes, right? Any other questions along the way, Brad?
There was a couple of them. What's the average coverage of a 50-pound bag of sand?
Okay, so the average coverage on a 50-pound bag of sand on restoration is going to be anywhere from 300 to 400 square feet per bag. So if you've got, basically rule of thumb is that if you got 1,000 square feet, have 3 bags per 1,000. So that's, on average between 300. I'd much rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But typically on wet sanding, like I can get right into, depending on how big the gaps are. If you look on the back of the bag, you're going to see a chart that's back there, and that chart is going to be directly proportioned to new pavers where we're filling the joints from the bottom all the way to the top. So on restoration, we're only cleaning out 2/3 of the depth inside of it. So we want to make sure that that you're looking at about 300 to 400 square feet per bag. All right.
Cool.
So let's go into the ceiling triangle right here. This is a very interesting way of setting customers' expectations, and I use this quite a bit. There's actually 3 different episodes, 3 different pieces to this training, or to this triangle that's here. First of all, stabilization. This is something that you're going to determine as a contractor, determining whether or not we need stabilization. One of the things to think about is that you can use joint stabilizing sealer on hardscapes that do not need to be stabilized. Like, for instance, I can use a joint stabilizing sealer on concrete if I choose to, even though I'm not stabilizing any of the joints, right? But if I go into a room and I've got a room of, say, 50 people that are there, and I ask them, and I go around the room and I ask them, what is the wet look? Right? Because that's what a lot of people are looking for, the wet look. I'm going to get multiple different answers. Some of the answers are going to come across as, I like it, the change of the color, the enhancement of the color. Then you're going to have the sheen and the shine. Here's the problem. If you ask a customer, what are they looking for? And they tell you, I want the wet look, but you do not separate the 2 attributes, enhancement and sheen, you could very easily potentially provide them something that they're not looking for. For instance, if their idea of a wet look is enhancement, not the sheen, and you give them a high gloss finish, they're going to be upset because it's got a high sheen, high gloss finish. If they are looking for something that is very shiny, but your idea of a wet look is enhancement and you give them a matte finish, they're not going to be happy. So that's why we need to ask the customer 2 questions. Do you like it when I put water on these pavers and look at just the colors? Do you like it when it's dry, or do you like it whenever it's wet? Look at the colors. Oh, I like it when it's dry. That's a natural base sealer. I like it when it's wet. That's going to be an enhancing sealer. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you like low sheen, medium sheen, or high sheen? When we talk about high sheen, we're talking about, looks like a mirror that's out there, or it's really, really high sheen. What I will tell you this, pay attention, class, really important. The higher the sheen, the higher the sheen, the higher the problems. The higher the sheen, the higher the problems. So, oh, look at this gloss. Look at this shine. Look at this sheen. Look at this thing right here. The higher the sheen, the higher the problems. You can trap moisture. You can trap efflorescence. You can make it slippery. There's more problems. I can tell you that a majority of the guys out there are not selling on sheen and shine anymore. They're sealing on enhancement. That's what they're trying to do. Cat 5, which we're going to talk about, has the highest, the deepest, longest lasting enhancement that you can get in the market today, period. There is no other. That's the way that it works. It will give you the longest, deepest color enhancement in the market today. That's just the way that the chemistry works. So there's 2 types of sealers. There's film forming sealers and there's penetrating sealers. Film forming sealers, appearance and performance. That's why we have those. That's going to give you the deep colors, going to give you the enhancement, the sheen, the shine, develop a level of sheen, stain resistance, joint sand, or chip stabilization. Well, don't talk a lot about chip stabilization. That's going to be for whenever we're doing any type of drainage systems that are there. So we don't really talk a lot about the chip stabilization. Penetrating sealers, it's all about the performance. Guard against water and salt infiltration, stain blocking. Hybrid can also add appearance and sheen. Now, stain blocking, guard against water, salt infiltration, that's going to be involved primarily with protecting against with concrete. Also helps protect against the freeze thaw cycle as water goes down into the water or down into those concrete and it freezes. When it freezes, it expands. When it expands, it actually chips the concrete, and because it's expanding out to it. So it's a spalling effect that's there. If we can keep that water from penetrating into it, then we can also keep it from cracking. Now, we can't stop roots. We can't stop movement and shifting of bases underneath it. But what we can do is help protect against that freeze thaw cycle. So up north, if you guys are looking to do any type of sealing and kind of get caught up here before the end of the season that's here, right now is the time you should be talking about concrete sealing to your customers to protect them through the winter. Now, we have 2 types of film form or penetrating sealers, and we're going to talk about those here in just a second. All right. So on every bucket of sealer, you're going to have a lot number. This is not a date number. There is an actual rhyme to reason. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what it is, but it is a rhyme to reason. That doesn't mean that on the 5th day of the 3rd month of 1960 is when this was made. It's an actual lot number. We suggest that whenever you do any type of jobs, that you get that lot number and you write it down on the job that you do, just in case. Now, with that said, we do not make sealers, and Brad Laguerre, the owner of the company, does not sign off on a sealer unless it has less than a 3% failure rate. That's a 3% failure rate. Our actual failure rate over the past 30 years is 0.003% of how much sealers made. This is a fundamental basic idea that Brad believes. One, is that when you make a product, you make it as superior and you make it as quality as you possibly can by using the quality ingredients. We've all been through this last part now where we've had all these shortages and everything else. People are making changes to formulas. It doesn't have the same sheen. It doesn't give this. I see people all the time, even with other sealers. It just seems like I'm not getting a consistent sheen. It's because you're not putting it on consistent pavers. It's not that difficult. If you've got pavers that are super thirsty and you got ones that are super dense, it's not the sealer's fault, right? It's the substrate that we're putting it onto. Now, I'm not defending the competitors, but I also am saying we've got to be realistic too, is that's why we will make your pavers the best your pavers can be. Okay. So just because you don't get a super shine on one and then this time you didn't, the sealer doesn't determine that. It doesn't say, I want to work really good over here, but I don't want to work really good over there. I really want to mess with Mike because I really want to be shiny here and I don't want to be shiny there. It doesn't think that way. As a matter of fact, contrary to belief, sealers really don't think, right? So make sure that you are keeping up with the lot number and putting it down onto those different jobs, just in case we do have to do a test. But I can tell you that 99.9999%, whatever it all works out to, the sealer is consistent. Brad will either A, if he can't get an ingredient, not make it, or B, make a different type of sealer with different sets of expectations. But what's not going to happen is they're not going to go put in a different leveler because they can't get this and hope to pray that it's not going to make any changes in the marketplace. You can guarantee and you can put it that every single bucket is made exactly the same. That's why, as an educator, not a salesperson, as an educator, I know that when I show up to somebody there, I know that 99.9% of the time it's not the sealer. That doesn't mean I'm trying to put the blame on you, but 99% of the time it's not going to be the sealer. I've only had one time that I've had to pull a lot number over the past 3 years of working with Trident. And even the 4 years beforehand, that includes all of that. And that's just because we just couldn't figure out what was wrong. What we did find out later on is that it was dog urine that was being on there, and it wasn't the sealer. The dogs were coming out and peeing on the actual pavers themselves, and we didn't know that and couldn't figure it out until one day they did. All right. We also have a sealer selection guide. The sealer selection guide is a great way. It's on side of our website that's here that helps you walk through to choosing the type of sealer that makes perfect sense for what your customer's expectations and what type of performance that you're looking to have. So you can follow it along with enhancement, joint stabilizing, go to joint stabilizing sealers. Are you looking for stain blocking, water repelling, salt protection? This is a really cool sheet that we'll send to you that also is in your welcome packet whenever you sign up for an account on side of Trident Protects Contractors Only. Ta-da. Solids, are they equal? There's going to be a lot of conversations out there talking about solids. This is an important slide that's here. Does solids mean it's better? Does more solids? Because you're hearing people say, oh my gosh, I've got 56% solids. I've got 54% solids. I've got 39% solids. More solids means it has to be better. Is that true? No, it can't. Can you add more solids and make it better? Absolutely, you could add more solids, but you got to add the right solids and you have to balance it with all the other chemistry that's there. That's why there's been some sealers out there that have increased their solid count that's there as far as the urethanes, but they haven't balanced it out with the part A, and then they had failures like crazy. So be very, very careful when people say more solids means better. It's the right solids that make things better. Not all solids are created equal. Again, I could give you a rock that's about this big, and I can give you a diamond that's about this big, a P rock that's about this big, or a diamond. There are vastly different characteristics between the two, but they are still rocks. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, there's level 1, level 4, 5, and 6, level 10 types of urethanes. A lot of people believe that all these urethanes are just the same. The Part A is the same because they smell the same, because they look the same. They're white, they're milky, the Part A's, the Part B's. When you open up a kit of Cat 5 and you open up the Part B, you are going to instantly see the difference between it, because not only is it clear, it's like glacier water inside of there. It is almost invisible. That's how pure this urethane is. When people go in and say, well, all the urethanes are the same, that's just not true. If I were to go to a manufacturer of urethanes out of Texas or anywhere else, or Germany or anything else, and said, I want a urethane, they're going to hand me a book that's got about 1,000 different types of urethanes in them. Each of them have their own package. So for instance, ours are level 9 urethanes. Some people have been hearing about this, but these are level 9 urethanes. There really is no such thing as a level 10 urethane. That's almost like a 10th degree black belt. It's something you can never really get, right? Level 1 urethanes are primarily used for furniture. They're non-alphatic, which means that they can yellow in the sun. It's really cheap to make, and it's not very water soluble. The interesting part about this is that you're starting to see people that are saying, I developed my own 2-part urethane sealer and it's a whole lot cheaper. And all these people, it's because they stumbled across this urethane that's a level 1 urethane. And that's why they disappear so quickly, is because those urethanes will start to chip, they'll start to yellow. They don't have any of the UV protection. Now, the competitor levels, and I'll say that we do have some very good competitors out there. People are going to ask me all the time, what do you think about Cobble-Lock? What do you think about Uraseal? I think they're great products. I think they're good products. I don't think they're great products, but I think they're good products. If somebody was going to ask me, who are your top 3 players? Trident, Cobble-Lock, Uraseal. Set it on here, telling everybody I've got no problem saying that. Good products, right? Good people working for them. Know them well. Know Alex. No, all the guys down with Austin, met all of them, had lunch with them. Good people. Competitor levels are going to be the 4, 5, and 6 urethanes. Now, that means that they are alphatic, which means that they have UV protection, but they need additives to work. How do you determine that? Is because when you look at the mix ratio and you see how long it takes for them to mix, it says that it needs to be water soluble in 3 minutes. It takes that long for the chemistry to go from part A to part B. When you get A and you get B, when you put those two things, there are things in A that are looking for things in B. There's things in B that are looking for things in A. And if you do not mix those things together and they don't compile and do the chemical reactions together before you add the water into it, then it's not going to be the strongest cross-linking that happens for joint stabilization and longevity. Our sealers, the Cat 5, for instance, the 2-part urethane is alphatic. It has advanced UV protection, so it protects against the sun for longer. That's there, which is also what helps keep the sealer from breaking down and giving it a longer durability and longevity. It is a pure form of urethane. It's water soluble in 1 minute because we don't have any of the additives that part B needs to go through to get to A. Now, remember I told you about the sand? This is what I was talking about. A lot of people are talking about the 2030 grit silica sand. One of the reasons why we don't use 2030 grit silica sand, or also known as pool filter sand, is because majority of it is rounded. There's actually 6 different types of sand, all the way from very rounded to semi-rounded to semi-angular, medium angular, super angular, crazy angular, nothing but an angle. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. I actually have a picture of it somewhere, but I don't have it in here. Right. The problem with the round is that the sealer can go straight through. The problem with that is, let me go back to my annotation here, right? Is that the only contact points that you get are right here. It's as if I took a basketball, bunch of basketballs, and put them into a hoop. And when I put them in, not into a hoop, but into a basket, when I do, the only contact points I've got is where they come together here, right? So that's your only contact point. When you get something that's fine, like a play sand that's there, it doesn't allow the sealer to come all the way through. So it creates a crust across the top. And you can typically tell when that happens because you can dig it and pick that off. And underneath here, all this is pure powder underneath. It also what happens when they try to use polymeric sand and use sealer to harden the sand. Makes sense. Water activates it. Sealer is made out of water. It should be able to happen. But what happens is it hardens too quick and doesn't allow it to go all the way down into it. You can still joint stabilize with our sealer. As you'll notice, our sealer is not very, very thick. Thickness does not determine longevity and better sealers. It also is made with the correct viscosity to make sure that it gets all the way through. Here is your ASTM C144 grade. As you can see, there's multiple different angles, multiple different grades that are there. So you have tons of surface structure. But when we did the testing, you can see that the sealer is able to make it from the top all the way down to the bottom. This is what creates the best joint stabilizing outcome with the sealer. Okay. Go away. So, talking about some sealers and we're almost done. Joint stabilizing sealer, our #1 seller out there, Hurricane Cat 5, 2-part urethane concentrated gloss finish, deep color enhancement. This kit right here, this kit, 5 gallons of part A, 2 gallons of part B, makes 20 gallons of sealer. That does anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 square feet of pavers, depending if you're doing joint stabilization or not, right? So when we see people that are calling and saying, oh my gosh, Hurricane Cat 5 is so expensive, it's the equivalent of 2 kits of Kabalock. It is the equivalent of 2 kits of Uraseal, right? It is the equivalent of 2 kits. You've got 2 gallons and highly concentrated part A that makes 20 gallons of sealer. Now, do I get people all the time that are coming and go, well, I don't get 1,000 square feet from my sealer. I get 1,600 square feet. Great. If you're stretching it out that far and you're getting 1,600 square feet, shit, you're going to get 5,000 square feet with ours, right? But don't come in and stretch that sealer and compare it to the actual manufacturer specs that are saying that are here. It's very important to make sure that you follow manufacturer specs, not what the salesperson tells you. Manufacturer specs. Now, there are things that are taught in little tricks and tips that the salesperson or educator, salespeople, educators that come in and can keep these joint or keep these sealers and teach you little tips and tricks along the way. But don't go in and use the stretching method of other sealers and compare it against the manufacturer specs of what we say that Cat 5 will cover. Okay. So.
Hey, Mike, what's the estimated shelf life?
Opened or unopened? I'll just give them both.
Yeah, let's just do both.
Yeah, let's just do both. That makes sense, right? So once you open it, right? So once you open up the part A and the part B, I want you to use it within a year. Also make sure it doesn't freeze, right? Now, typically use it within 6 months. I'm sorry, should be within 6 months. So if you open this up, now it has a 2-year shelf life. Now, this is manufacturers telling you that it has a 2-year shelf life unopened, right? So you buy the kit, you got 2 years to use it. Most people are typically not sitting on their sealer for 2 years, but it's got 2 years. Once you've opened it, the key is you don't want A to mix with B. When you mix A and B together, and you can mix them up to your, and I'm going to show you here in just a second. Once you mix it, then you have 90 minutes to apply it, because that is what we call the pot life, right? The pot life is how long you have to be able to put it down onto the surface. Go away. Clear, clear. And then let's go to next picture. Here we go. On the back of part B, you have what's called the D1 solution and the D2 solution. The D2 solution, and this is dilution 1 and dilution 2. Dilution 1 is taking this kit right here and making 15 gallons. So that means you're going to get a higher sheen, higher shine, deeper enhancement. If you're making the D2, which is primarily what a majority of people are doing, they're going to make 20 gallons of sealer. So if you look on this chart here, you're looking at 2,000 square feet, 5 gallons of part A, 2 gallons of part B, add 13 gallons of water, makes 20 gallons, right? So you can look at this and say, all right, I want to do 500 square feet. I need 5 quarts, which is 1.25 gallons of part A. I need a half a gallon of part B, which is 2 quarts. And I need the rest of it, which is 3.25 gallons of water, and it makes 5 gallons. It's actually very simple. 1.25 gallons of water of part A, a half a gallon of part B, mix it together for 1 minute, fill it up to the top with water, mix it again for another minute, you got 5 gallons of sealer. But let's say, for instance, you just need 2.5 gallons. Well, you can go to 2.5 gallons and work backwards. The difference in these charts right here is this is with joint stabilization. That means you're doing a flood coat and a top coat. This is sealing only. So this is what you would put over the resin sand, you put over the polymeric sand, or something that you don't have to do joint stabilization with. Okay.
How thick is the flood coat, Mike? Would you estimate?
That's coming up next.
I figured.
Yep, it's coming up next here. But to give you an idea that if you're doing 2,000 square feet, this is a really good rule of thumb. I do everything in thirds, right? So basically, if I look at 2,000 square feet and I make 20 gallons, then I'm going to use 2/3 of my sealer for the flood coat for the whole entire area. And I'm going to use 1/3 of my sealer for the final coat over absolutely everything. So you can see this is your flood coat and this is your top coat. Okay. So 2/3 of it for your flood coat. So you're looking at, say, 14 gallons is you're going to be your flood coat, and you're looking at 6-7 gallons, give or take. I know we're dealing with 20 gallons instead of 21 gallons, but about 6 gallons for your top coat. To increase your sheen and shine, you should give an hour in between your first coat and your second coat. If you're not trying to increase your sheen and shine, you should then do a wet on wet application, because when you do your original cleaning or your original flood coat, the urethane goes through a 2-stage process where it dries and lifts up, and then you want it to actually have the urethane create a shelf. Then the sealer then sits on top of it and creates a sheen and a shine that's there on your second coat. Kind of going really in depth this time tonight. I kind of you're getting a little extra out of me here today. I know we've lost maybe 2 people, but I'm really kind of going in a lot more in depth than I normally do. Cyclone is our natural base sealer. It's the ready to use. This is for someone that's wanting something natural that's into it. This is a very, very important piece. Pay attention. This is really important. When we talk about joint stabilizing sealers that you put in and it hardens the sand, and you have all these competitors out there that are saying, oh, we've got this sealer, that sealer, and stuff like that. If you look right on here, it's very hard to see, but if you were to look into this area right here, you're going to see a 1300 here. This is what's called SB 1300 on the Tridents, on the SEK side, SB 1300. Cyclone is the first joint stabilizing sealer ever made. This is the Adam and Eve of all sealers, or the Adam or Eve, depending on what you want it to be. right? This is the Adam and Eve of all sealers. So when it comes down to joint stabilization, 30 years ago, SEK and Dennis, the chemist that is still with us today, love the guy, funny as can be, right? Try to get him to make me some Breaking Bad stuff, but he wouldn't let me do it. But anyway, go to Cyclone. It is the joint stabilizing sealer that was originally made. So when we talk about joint stabilizing, this is the original one. Natural base, great on travertine, great on pavers, not going to give it an enhancement, not going to create a sheen or a shine, breathable film forming sealers. And that's very important for the breathability of sealers. So, whoa, went too far. We are so almost there, right? So when we talk about flood coat here, I've got Greg Kelly doing a flood coat. You can see this is what a flood coat looks like. See it going? Flooding those joints, getting that sealer down into that joint, right? This is one method. Right? See it flooding into the joints? Then I'm going to go over here and we're going to see Dennis Davis going in and doing a flood coat. And what we're doing here, I'm going to pause it right here. You can see this line that's right here. This is called cutting the cheese, right? This is Ron Smith talks about this in his, where you're spraying down and having this edge that you're floating into the joints. Like the idea of putting the shield at the end so you're protecting yourself. That's there. This is a flood coat and squeegee application. And you can see that what we're doing is we're flooding down the sealer, right? Going into the joint. And then taking a double foam squeegee and diagonally pulling the excess into the joints. So watch what happens. This is flooding the sealer. Wait till we get there. There we go. See how we're pulling the excess sealer down and into those joints so that we're getting optimal joint stabilization. You want to reduce your callbacks, do joint stabilization very, very well, and you'll reduce your callbacks. I need to clear my, there we go. Okay. So penetrating sealers. So horizontal, vertical surfaces, stain blockers, water repellent, soft guards. This is going to be really good for you guys up north that are looking to protect concrete from the spalling that we had talked about. We've got two sealers that we're going to talk about here. One of them is break wall. It's a water-based sealer. It protects against salt guard, invisible, breathable, immediate application, penetrating, water-based carrier. The thing about break wall is you can put it down when it's still damp. The key is you want to try to keep water off of it for 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours. If you can keep it off for 48 hours, it's even better. People can walk on it when it's dry. But one of the advantages is that you can show up to a job, clean the driveway, walk up to Miss Smith and say, would you like for us to seal it? Give them their pitch, have a 12-volt system, spray it down. You can spray about 1,000 square feet in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, it's a great moneymaker. Break wall is a 2 to 3 year sealer. The advantages with seawall, it's a solvent base, so it needs to be dry before you put it down. It doesn't have to be completely bone dry, but it needs to be dry, typically 24 hours after you clean it. Seawall is a solvent base, but this is a 5 to 10 year sealer. Out on my driveway, I've got a big spot that I did with seawall. I'm on year 7, almost to year 7 of my house, and I still have that spot, that big area that I did out there in seawall. I'm not saying, but I am saying that it is by far my favorite concrete paver or concrete sealer. The difference between penetrating sealers and film forming sealers is penetrating sealers will not do joint stabilizing. You can also spray seawall through a 12-volt system, even though it is a solvent. So here is seawall. which is also on the Trident side, SB 4400. Like the sound effects, isn't that great? And then here's another little small video. So watch with the sound effects too. Watch, I'll put it on mute. Ready? Watch. Didn't it make you feel like you were right there? I know, I'm getting tired. It is what it is, right? Okay. So basically what I want to show you just real quick, tridentprotects.com. We're almost done here. Resource library, just a couple of places to point to. The T3 University, Trident Protects Contractors Only Facebook group. So let me go into this right here. Let me see here. There we go. All right. So now we're on the website right here real quick. Are you seeing the website, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because sometimes I do that wrong and everything. So on the website right here, you're going to see a couple of really cool things. If you're looking for cleaners, you're going to be able to go into it. You can search by the area that you're cleaning, by spot cleaning, multi-use cleaner, sealer and strippers, all kinds of cleaners, every spot cleaning. All the sealers that are here, you can browse by joint stabilizing sealer, two-part urethanes, wet look sealers. What are you trying to add? Are you looking to add a sheen or a shine, deepen the surface color, types of protection against water and salt, oil, fading, mold, mildew, stains, harden the joint sand and seal surfaces, surface by type. If you're looking for unglazed tile and grout, roof tiles, you can see here. Sand is where we've got the three different kinds. We got joint sand, polymeric sand, and resin sand. For the pros, you've got resources all the way of why sealing the surfaces, tips for cleaning success, contractor guide, surface assurance program, T3 University, find a distributor, become a distributor. That's probably not going to do you guys any good. That's there. But what I also for the owners, because owners can come in here. And as you'll see, as we scroll through this, let's say, for instance, an owner comes in and they want to do some more information about the sealers. So they go into the sealers, but because they don't have a approved account, they can't log in to see the pricing, right? But they can go into, for instance, Cat 5, that's right here, go in and take a look. Here's all the information. They've got some reviews that are in there, but they can look. Here's the sales sheet that you can download and give to a customer, safety data sheet, technical data sheet. This is the technical data sheet in Spanish. I couldn't tell you what it says. But here's like the purpose, right? We got features, covers, videos, average coverage per gallon, videos, not only how to mix and how to dilute it. What's flood coat and squeegee application. So this website has a vast knowledge, but here's two spots that I want to show you, actually three spots. Number one, log in and create an account. That's where you're going to register for your new account. That's when you're going to start the logging in process or the onboarding process. The other part that I want you to go to is the, if you go into pros and you go to resource library, this library that's here has all kinds of information. Every single one of the technical data sheets that's here. You've got the safety data sheets. You've got in Spanish too. You've got technical bulletins that has all kinds of information to read about, sell sheets and marketing sheets, all the way from things that you can download to give to the customer itself, cleaner selection guide, sealer selection guide. Then we have a whole video library. You want to know how to mix Cat 5? No problem. Go down here, how to mix and dilute Hurricane Cat 5. Click the button. There it is. There's your video. But also the last piece that I want to show you guys is the training. The training is right at the top. You click on it, T3 University. This is where you can come and see I got to delete off the upcoming training there, but we have this one that we're doing tonight, September 6th. You can see Rochester, New York, which is tomorrow, Panama City Beach on the 14th, the Sherwin-Williams and Diamond Power Washers in Virginia on the 14th. And as you can see, we plan all these out. We know that the season, especially down in the South, is specifically going to pick up the middle of October. The Florida swing is what we call it, with all the training, is going to be done by October the 20th. I think October the 18th is the last day that's in Florida. But then we have Arizona on October the 20th. We got a couple of pro shows that we're doing, and then it doesn't start back up until January 31st. Now, when you go in, for instance, if you're looking at, for instance, the Atlanta, Georgia one, when you click on it, it takes you right into it, and you can see all the details, the location, some videos, where it's located at. But more importantly, all you have to do is click on this register button. And when you click on that register button, it goes right in. You pick what it is, fill out the questions. And as you can see, there's big fat zeros that are there. It's free training that you can come to and see. And we actually clean, sand, and seal those papers, right? So now, all right, everybody that's still on here, let me leave this checkbox here. I'm going to switch over my share back to this right here. You should be looking at the presentation from current slide. Here we go. So we've got done with that. Resource library, T3 University, obviously joined in the Titan Protects Contractors Only group. This is actually our warehouse up in Chicago. Even though I did Photoshop Trident on the front because it has a big SEK banner that's right there. I did Photoshop it there, but this is our warehouse. It's roughly around 90,000 square feet, 80 to 90,000 square feet. We also have our sand. This is in St. Charles. We also have our sand plant that's in Aurora, and we have another plant that's being built up there in that area for the liquids. We have our sand and liquids in the same plant. We have another one that's being built there, as well as a full distribution center in Tampa, Florida. That's where I'm located at right now. So this is good. This is what I need you to do. I need you to pull out your phone. Okay. If you're watching on a computer, great. If you're watching on a phone, that's great too. But I need you to scan this right here. This is a review. This is how we know that you did this. If you scan that, I'm going to do it right here on my phone. I'm going to pull up my camera right here. Just pull up your camera. It'll say flexquiz.com. Click on it. And you're going to go to a page. Uh-oh. This quiz is not open. Uh-oh. I got to fix it. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, don't do that. Whoop, I think I'm done. I'm going to send you a link as soon as we get done here. I am going to send a link to everyone that participated inside of here. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. I'll do that and send a link. All I'm asking for you guys to do is to fill out that form. And it's just a review on what you learned here. I hope that you found that this was a very valuable, and that you spending 2 hours. Sorry, I got long-winded, but I appreciate those people that stayed in here. It is 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'm sorry that I kind of got going, but sometimes I get really excited and I get a lot of details and get going because I'm really am very passionate about this and watching people succeed and do well. So, take a picture of that screen that's there. Let me go back to it. I'm going to send it to you guys in a text message for all the participants that came. I'll do it as soon as we hang up there, and just a direct link. If you will just go in and do a review, it'll take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but helpful information is good. Even if there's something that we could have done better, give us some good information. That way we can do better. And really provide something fantastic for you guys. So other than that, that's really about all we've got. I hope that it was beneficial to you guys there. I'm going to jump back into the top right here and ask a couple of questions here. Do the sealers reduce slip resistance? I'm going to answer that question. You can add a slip resistance inside of it. And by doing so, you can add like shark grip or diamond dust or something else to it. But sealers do not reduce slip resistance because they are film formers. If you're looking for something that doesn't increase the slip coefficient, you're going to need to use something like a penetrating sealer. All right. Let's see here. I am going to go in and I am going to stop the recording. So I want to thank you guys for coming here, but I'm going to stay on a little bit longer. We'll open up, and probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute and let some people do some talking and stuff so we can answer some questions. So let me stop the recording here.